Would you like to learn from those that are taking their lives, their businesses, and their passions to the next level? Best-selling author of Speakeasy and master connector Lou Diamond is here to connect you to some of the most inspiring and amazing people on this planet. Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to another unbelievable episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond, and today on Thrive Loud, we have a man with spirit. After being part of the Army and many rebuilding efforts around the globe, he found his way over to the Ukraine. And in that journey, he fell in love not only with the country, but its people, its history, its culture, and its wine and vodka. This led him to founding SPYRT Worldwide to bring the best of the Ukraine to the United States. Thrive Loud listeners, excited to connect you to Sam Lerman. Sam, welcome to Thrive Loud.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Excited to be here. Interesting times that you are probably going through and dealing with, and a pretty cool story. I don't want to rewind to go all the way back to the womb, Sam, but I want you to share with the listeners. I want to understand how SPYRT Worldwide came to be.
So long story short, I grew up in the DC area, was in high school for 9/11, joined the military, when I was 17, and spent 12 years in the military, did Hurricane Katrina, served in Afghanistan, I was in Air Force Security Forces, doing law enforcement and airfield defense, and wound up getting injured, couldn't deploy anymore, got out of the military and went into the defense industry. And I did some unique things in the defense industry, equipping conventional and special operations forces with everything from weapons to night vision to armor, communications equipment, etc. And it was because of that experience that and doing that at a very high level, that when when Russia invaded Ukraine, I got a phone call from some friends who had retired from Army Special Forces. Is there some feedback there? Sorry. Okay. I have some friends who retired from Army Special Forces, and said, hey, the government's pulled everybody out of the embassy. We're not doing anything. We're putting together a team of volunteers of various specialties to go to Ukraine and advise their government on raising and equipping their army. They're asking specifically for a weapons and gear procurement guy who can come teach what right looks like on combat acquisition. And I said, no pay, no insurance, no backing. We leave on Saturday. Do you want to come? And I went and talked to my wife, and who was amazing, Erin. She, was a military spouse for 10 years, dealt with Afghanistan and everything. And we talked about it and agreed this is something we needed to do. So I went and packed up my body armor and chem gear and medical equipment, and went to Warsaw, joined the team, and we went overland into Ukraine about week 5 of the invasion.
First of all, before we go any further, thank you for your service. I'm always inspired by people who put country and safety and the health of others above all else. So cannot appreciate you enough. Literally,
thanks.
You jump in at a pretty tumultuous time. Continue the story. The floor is yours. How this continues.
So yeah, so we go into Ukraine, and I wind up living in a Ukrainian safe house, working 18 hours a day at a laptop, helping them learn how to do acquisitions in the environment they're dealing with, and work with U.S. industry to get what they need. I immediately fell in love with the country, the people, the mission, the cause. And the wine and vodka. I'm spending, day after day at this table, living in this house with 3 cell phones, a Cyrillic alphabet MacBook Air, some wine and vodka, and an AK-74. And it's just the most wild but purposeful experience I've ever had. It was supposed to be like 3 to 5 days, and after about 5 days, the rest of the team said, "Okay, we've all had the meetings. We've done, what we came here to teach. We're headed back to Warsaw. Let's pack up." And I went, "No, I think I'm staying." Uh, Said, "What? Yeah, I'll come later." Because I felt like this was I was in a role that my whole life had prepared me for, and between my military experience, my industry experience, my foreign travel, etc., I was uniquely qualified to be able to try and help. And so I really just did not want to leave. So I wound up living in the safe house for weeks, for a while being the lone American embedded in this Ukrainian government advisory office. And we traveled around to military units at some of their covert sites, and looked at their equipment issues and learned what issues they were having, so we could pass up the chain of command, and we could identify sources in the U.S. that would help fill their needs, connect them with the right people, things like that. But on the first night in the safe house, and you can imagine this looks kind of like a scene out of a movie, right? Except it's not like some ramshackle house. It's a really, really nice house with a little guest house in the back that I lived in. But other than that, it's kind of like the movie scene you're envisioning, right? We're all sitting around this table. There's Kalashnikovs and body armor and medical equipment on the table and stacks of documents. And one of the guys puts down a bottle of vodka in the middle of the table and says, "Now we do a cultural exchange." And I said, "Oh, yeah, I'm not really a vodka guy. That's vodka, right? Bad memories from college." And he says, "No, this is not vodka. This is horilka." And I go, "Okay, what's horilka?" And he says, I say, "Okay, what's the difference?" And he says, "Vodka is Russian, and it can only make you angry. Horilka is Ukrainian, and it opens your mind." Uh, and I go, "Okay, that's great. I get it. It's fancy Ukrainian vodka, but I'm not a vodka guy." It was not optional. So I had it, and I was like, "Whoa, what is that?" He said, "I told you, this is Horilka." And okay. It was delicious. It was some of the smoothest liquor I've ever had in my life. And I was an immediate convert. And soon I was trying the wine and things like that. It was across the whole country in the first weeks of the invasion. Alcohol sales were completely prohibited. It was illegal to sell alcohol. So I paid the one bribe I've ever paid in my whole life to a liquor store owner to sell the crazy American backpack full of alcohol to bring back to the safe house. Um, but I couldn't believe the quality. So I wound up, essentially turning my whole life around the war effort. I eventually went home. I kept volunteering from the U.S. with the same mission team. Uh, and I volunteered unpaid for about 5 months, living on savings, before my wife said, "Nope, we're done with that. You have to get a job with income again." Um, it was something about children that we have to feed. But uh, so I essentially created a new job for myself in the defense industry that would let me work in Ukraine, because now my whole life was revolving around the war. But while I was in the U.S., I kept trying to find Ukrainian wine and vodka. Couldn't find it anywhere. It didn't practically didn't exist. The few Ukrainian vodkas that were here were not like the serious high end Ukrainian stuff that I'd been having, and I got more and more frustrated by this. So when I went to as soon as I got this new job, I went right back to Ukraine, and I did what any American combat vet with any self-respect would do. I started bootlegging and bringing suitcases of wine and vodka back to the U.S. for myself, my family, my friends. I would declare them, and I didn't break any U.S. laws. I declared them at Dulles when I landed, but you can't fly out of Ukraine. and it's illegal to bring more than a liter of alcohol into the EU. So I would have to sneak them into the EU to then fly home with them. And after getting caught a couple times and screamed at in Polish while trying to talk my way out in English, I started thinking about, okay, could I really do this? Could I bring Ukrainian alcohol to the United States? And as I worked more and more on this, you know, I put together a plan to bring Ukrainian alcohol to the United States, show off the beauty and history and craftsmanship of Ukrainian distilling and winemaking, and use it as a form of diplomacy for Ukraine, and at the same time use it to fund life-saving operations in Ukraine. So I got together two friends, David, who's a successful career entrepreneur and U.S. Marine Corps veteran, who has tons of operations and business management experience, and Maxim, also a successful Ukrainian entrepreneur and Ukrainian veteran who I lived with in the safe house in Ukraine. I said, the three of us, we can set up this company. We'll each be one-third owners. Are you guys in? And we built the company. I then approached Invictus Global Response, which is a team of like-minded American bomb technicians, EOD and combat engineer veterans, who are standing up their operations and looking for funding. And Monty, the head of that group, had already lost his right foot in Ukraine to a landmine. And so we built this partnership with them where our wine and vodka sales would universally contribute to their landmine removal efforts. That's not some performative 1% or something. It's right now 15% as we're getting started of our profits go to them, and it'll never drop below 10% as long as we exist.
Sam, I have so many questions, but I'm gonna start off with the real basic one, and that is, how come the Ukraine hasn't been recognized, or at least here in the United States, or why there hasn't been a more active distribution of this wine and vodka in the past?
Absolutely. One point of order, by the way: Ukraine, not the Ukraine. The Ukraine is the old Russian Soviet way. Um, no problem at all. Most people, I used to do the same thing. Um, uh, so, I think for vodka, there is some understanding that vodka, as we know it today, was created around 1300 in what used to be, or in what is now Eastern Poland and Western Ukraine. That's sort of the cradle of vodka. And so those are the oldest distilling traditions. The Russians, during the Soviet years, put their mark on it and tried to make the claim that they were the originators of vodka, etc. No, they weren't. The Soviet Union was occupying Ukraine, and that's where it came from, and Poland for that matter, as a satellite state. Winemaking, that's a harder question to answer. I think the vodka, it was just a matter of availability. Ukrainian winemaking goes back 2,500 years, and is known in parts of Europe. But I think the real answer there is that it's been at a disadvantage as wine became a much more global thing in the 20th century, where international trade was much easier, shipping and logistics was much easier. Nothing was coming out of the Soviet Union. And the Soviet Union ran the wineries into the ground, right? The pre-Soviet winemaking was incredible, but that was pre-industrialization. So, the winery we import from right now, Shabo, which is our first winery partner, is over 200 years old, continuous operation since 1822. Won their first international wine awards in 1847. It was founded by Swiss winemaking colonists and had 120 years of international renown before the Soviets took over Odessa in 1940 and screwed up the facility and ran it into the ground. It's only post-Soviet Union that it's been restored to its pre-Soviet glory and enhanced with all the modern technology and techniques available.
I want to, and thank you for answering this, because that was my first thing on the brain was like, how come we haven't had access to Ukrainian liquor as much as we could, as you can today. Now I want to talk about the real challenge. Obviously, to say you are trying to bring a product into the United States in a challenging environment, you have a lot of factors going on. One, there's a war going on, and two, distribution of this content is not the easiest thing to get from one place to another. Talk about, I know you're a logistics expert, and I understand that this is where your expertise is coming in. Let's talk about that battleground right now, the battleground within a battleground of how you're getting this product out.
Yeah, so there's two parts to that, right? One, depending on where you are in Ukraine, it's not the whole country isn't a battlefield, right? Yes, there are airstrikes in western cities and not near the front line, but that's not every minute of every day, every building in ruins. Much of the country continues to operate as normal till something explodes, and then people. But life has to keep going on, otherwise the country would collapse. So there's still logistics operations. We ship our products by truck into the EU and then move them out of ports in the EU to ensure safe passage. You know, um, you know, Maxim knows Ukrainian logistics like the back of his hand. Uh, and then on the regulatory side, it's funny because that was one of the first things as I was thinking about this. This idea. This was around September, October 2022, and I was talking to my older brother about it, who's a college professor in Virginia, and I said, "Yeah, I should really bring it in." This was after he tried some vodka. He said, "Yeah, you should." And I said, well, alcohol is so heavily regulated. He said, "Yeah, it's so much more heavily regulated than the stuff you've done prior." And I went, that's a good point. It's actually pretty easy compared to that. So,
So there's one thing to have this philanthropic effort to help people, and there's another to have this entrepreneurial hat on to launch this business. Uh, and by the way, it doesn't surprise me that this wine and vodka is probably as amazing as it is. As I've learned, there's always battles for land when there's really great product there. Why do you think Italy has been fought over for so many years, and obviously the other parts of the
right.
world? Because there's something really good within it. So that's not surprising to me. But putting on this entrepreneurial hat, what has this experience been like to you? With obviously someone who has a passion and a love not only for the people but for causes. Help me balance that out for our listeners as to why you're thriving each and every day and trying to make this thing launch in the success that you've been trying to achieve.
A lot of challenges. It's a new industry for me. The alcohol industry is like dealing with 50 different legal systems, because it is. Um, uh, you know, it's uh, it's very there's a lot to learn with logistics. There's a lot to learn with product. And there's, when you get into wine and spirits, I mean, the level of detail that's needed, especially with wine, at both the reseller and consumer level, is just extraordinary. So it's been crash course after crash course in new information, whether that's regulatory hurdles, state to state, different purchasing systems, products, or competitive environment. Um, uh, and that's been difficult. At the same time, I don't get into my other work, but I continue to work on the war effort, and so I go back and forth between those roles, and so it's always trying to manage the time to have it going and do everything we need to do. And between all of those challenges, it took us 2 years before we started shipping product. From January 2023 to we started really shipping in February, March of this year.
Sam, what has the interest been in Spirit Worldwide and the Ukraine.
Explosive. We were not prepared, frankly, for how deeply this would connect with people, and how the wine market would respond. A lot of people we talk to, they go, Ukrainian wine. They've never heard of Ukrainian wine, as you said, right? But then they try the wines and they find out this is a 200-year-old winery. That's the first Ukrainian winery to be served in Michelin-starred restaurants in London and Paris, and now we got Michelin star placement in Washington D.C. The first Ukrainian winery to be served and exhibited at the Bordeaux Wine Museum, the Site du Vin in Bordeaux, with hundreds of international wine awards. That we took the vodkas to the Denver, to the Wine and Spirits Wholesalers Association, national trade show and blind tasting competition, and we won. The highest award level is best of show, and that's selected from the double golds that are unanimously agreed to by the judges. This year there were three double golds. Two of them were our Ukrainian vodkas, one from each of our distilleries we work with, Hetman and Ukrainian Spirit. And Hetman Elite Vodka won Best Vodka in the United States, 98 points, double gold, Best of Show this year. So that's been coverage in Forbes, the Associated Press's Foreign Policy and National Security Bureau did in their 100-year history their first wine and vodka article or wine and spirits article about us. They it's been the response has been crazy. We just started, weeks ago. We started shipping wine in the Washington D.C. area, and we've gone through 450 cases of wine.
I was going to ask this question. Obviously, you came up with an idea and become first to market. Have others tried to do the same?
Not that I've seen a lot of. There are the big barrier, it seems, is most people don't want to go to Ukraine in the war, right? I've been going back and forth for 3 years, and there are some things you need to know to work with relative safety in a war zone. But this is not something that can be done remotely. You know, uh, to understand the people, the product, the culture, and what's needed to be done, you got to go there. You got to go, see Ukraine and the beauty of it, and understand the richness of the country and the culture, and understand what they're going through.
Let's talk about what they're going through. I wanted to use a segment of this to talk about it from someone who's only seeing what the news provides. Myself here, I'm asking somebody who's literally been on the ground. What's the vibe? What's the energy? What's the reality, or at least from your eyes, as to how this war is progressing? No war is fun, and we only get the updates. How is it on land over there?
Well, the Ukrainians are the toughest people I've ever met in my life. Though Afghans come pretty close. Um, the they've shocked the world over and over with their resilience and their ability to resist the Russians. They stopped. The world expected Kyiv to fall in 3 days. It's been over 3 years now. The while Russia has made progress on the battlefield, it's about this much at the cost of hundreds of thousands of lives. They are really battling it out, and they're protecting the Western world in doing so. It's hard. The draft is tough. The limitations on travel, the air raids, depending on where you are in the city, it can be, or in the country, what city you're in. The war can feel relatively far away, or it can feel very present every minute of every day. But like a third of the population is not living in the country. Many of whom have been displaced, have lost their families. Millions of people are living in occupied territory, behind Russian lines, unable to see their families. Everybody's lost someone. You know, you go to cemeteries, and it's a very sobering sight. Uh, but through it all, Ukraine remains positive, remains committed to victory and a just peace, and they really they show the world what it takes to thrive and thrive. And they need the world's support. As long as they continue to get it, Ukraine will be okay.
Sam, let's do this. Let's do the admin part of the show. Share with the listeners all the places people can learn about SPYRT Worldwide. By the way, that's SPYRT. If you're going to see it in the show notes
Yes.
here, where they could find it, social handles, links, we'll put it in the show notes, but let's hear it from you.
Yeah. SPYRT, with that Y transliteration, is actually Ukrainian for alcohol. So we began because of our mission of wine diplomacy and spirits diplomacy for Ukraine. We began in the Washington D.C. area, so we're located all over D.C., Maryland, Virginia. Already, we have a find a store near you function on our website. And by the way, I forgot to mention, but our first brand ambassador is Ambassador Kurt Volker, who has a long love affair with our wines and volunteered free of charge to help spread the word. So he is our brand ambassador. And we're expanding right now we just launched the wines in Colorado, the vodkas in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. We'll be expanding with the wines shortly to Michigan, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, California, and I believe New Jersey. And then we've got uh, vodka coming aboard in Colorado, California, Nevada, Washington, and Arizona, uh, as well as a few other states. They're also available online through direct-to-customer retailers. Yanni's Wine and Spirits uh, is is one of the first ones to have a large selection of our wines, and Potomac Wine and Spirits has the vodka for sale online.
Awesome. Sam, we're going to go down Fun Street here. I want to tell you, I love these stories and amazing entrepreneurial ventures. One, I'm wishing you all the best right now. I'm also wishing all the people that you've been connected to and everybody over in Ukraine safety and good luck, and specifically to you as you continue to get on the ground and go back and forth. No, it's never easy. So with that, I want to do a little segue here to what we call the Speakeasy Pub Crawl. Very fitting for a spirits guy we got here, a spirit guy that we have here. Let's start off. Does Sam Lerman have an all-time favorite movie?
I'm a cinephile, and was one credit short of completing my film minor in college. Uh, if I had to pick one that I think is perfect, Heat by Michael Mann.
Heat by Michael Mann, which would make sense that you're probably a fan of the Rewatchables podcast and Bill Simmons, because that's literally the reason what that show is up there. Heat is awesome. I think I've seen it like 100 times. I'm a big fan as well. So here we go. This is what we call the Speakeasy Pub Crawl. So fitting. We're going to stop at all the fun places that mean the most to Sam Lerman. There are no wrong answers. They're all yours. Here we go. Sam, of late, is there a song that you've been loving to listen to, or maybe one that just pumps you up?
Probably I'm really liking the new Linkin Park relaunch with Emily Armstrong. So
Okay, I do. I've actually been checking them out. They're actually coming down here soon. I'm down here in Florida. They're performing pretty soon. A bunch of guys trying to go. Favorite food that's not a dessert?
steak,
Favorite dessert?
ice cream.
Favorite food that you have encountered in the Ukraine? In Ukraine.
Actually, one of my favorite steakhouses in the world is in Kyiv. It's called Beef, Meat, and Wine, and it happens to be where I met Georgi for the first time, the owner of Shabo Winery.
An activity you wish you did more of.
Travel not for work.
An activity you wish you did less of.
Travel for work.
I knew that was coming. A new activity, one that Sam Lerman has recently tried. He likes so much he wants to tell everybody else to try.
Axe throwing.
It's growing in popularity. It's so funny that this thing has come in there. It's just totally. If I could snap my fingers and Sam Lerman could be anywhere in the world, where is he?
Red Lodge, Montana.
Really? And I guess you've been. Awesome. SPYRT Worldwide, Sam Lerman, truly bringing the Ukraine to the U.S. basically. For those who are watching the video, the flags behind it represent it all. Hey, thank you for what you're doing. I am excited. I am going to do some digging and hunting to see where I can pick up some. And so with that, what would be the I am a vodka fan. So which of the vodkas would you recommend the most?
Classic Ukrainian Spirit or Hetman Elite. Those were the two top vodkas this year at WSWA, and they're both incredible.
We're going to put links in the show notes for everybody to go check it out. Sam, thank you for coming on the program. Great to connect with you. Great to have you on Thrive Loud.
Thank you so much, Lou. And let me know if you need me to send you anything in the mail.
Oh, we're going to talk. To all
right.
our listeners out there, thank you for joining us. Until next time, keep moving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Check us out on the web at thriveloud.com and follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Thrive Loud. And check us out on the Good Pods app at Thrive Loud, where you can follow, listen, and connect directly to Lou and all of the Thrive Loud episodes. Thanks for listening.